Hi, I'm Gordon from Camera Labs, and this is a quick vlogging test with the Panasonic Lumix S1, Panasonic's first full-frame mirrorless camera. Well, I should say joint first, because there's actually two versions of this camera, the S1 and the S1R. And they differ mostly in sensor resolution. The S1 has 24 megapixels, that's what I'm filming with here, and the S1R has 47 megapixels, although there are a couple more differences, particularly in terms of the video, which I'll tell you about in just a moment. I should, however, before any of that, say that this was filmed with a pre-production camera, so the performance that you see here may not be completely reflective of final models. And here it is, that big full frame sensor, 24 megapixels on the S1 here versus 47 megapixels on the S1R. And that's the L mount, the mount that Panasonic has inherited from the Leica system, which means that this camera already hits the ground running when it comes to lens selection. Panasonic is launching it with 3 of its own, but there's already the existing L mount range from Leica, although they're not exactly affordable, so I don't know how many Panasonic owners would fit them. But the point is, there are lenses available. And by the end of 2020, between Panasonic, Leica and Sigma, there should be 42 lenses available for this system. So by adopting the L mount, it's really allowed these cameras to have a decent sized system very, very quickly. Seasoned Lumix owners will notice that the menu system has been slightly revamped on the S models here, but there's still some familiar options. We of course have a silent electronic shutter mode and a built-in image stabilizer here, which is good for around 5.5 stops with non-stabilized lens, or up to 6 stops with a dual IS lens. That's a lens that also has optical stabilization, like the 24 to 105 millimeter, in inverted commas, kit zoom. Now, just anecdotally speaking, because I'm not allowed to comment on full quality on this pre-production model, I actually thought that the image stabilization when shooting stills was very, very good. Certainly a step up from the G9 Micro Four Thirds body, which I was a little surprised about. It felt to me a lot more like shooting with an Olympus Micro Four Thirds body. When you had that shutter half pressed and the IS was enabled for stills, it really did lock on and keep that image incredibly steady. It's that eerie experience that you'll be familiar with from those OMD bodies, so that bodes well for final production models. The camera stabilization is certainly good enough for you to be able to film video while walking. This is completely handheld with the 24 to 105 millimeter. It's a dual IS system running at the moment because I've got the sensor shift stabilization and also the stabilization within the lens itself working together, but certainly no need for a gimbal here, I would say. On the top surface, you'll find the main mode dial with a locking button in the middle. You need to push that in order to turn it. On the right hand side, dedicated buttons to access the white balance, ISO sensitivity and exposure compensation, a chunky power switch, front finger dial, rear thumb dial, and here another dial that changes the autofocus mode, single, continuous and manual focus, and within that a button which can switch through the autofocus areas. You should also notice this big LCD display on the top surface that shows you a great deal of shooting information at a glance, and if you push the button to the right of it, you can illuminate it. Now, pushing this button does more than just illuminate this panel at the top, it also lights up 4 or 5 of the buttons on the rear surface. This is a feature I'm really glad Panasonic has included because it makes controlling the camera so much easier under dim conditions. If you do any long exposure photography at dusk or at night, or any kind of astro type shooting, you'll really appreciate that feature. And so far, amazingly, all mirrorless cameras have resisted the chance to fit that, so thanks for that, Panasonic. On the rear of the camera, you'll find a customizable lock switch, a thumb wheel here which you can also push to navigate through the menus. You can also use the AF joystick for that, but I really wanted to show you this button here which cycles through the AF options. If I push that there, you can see the varying AF modes there, full, zone, single, but most exciting of all here, face, eye and body detection with optional animal detection. Now this will, if activated, surround your targeted subject with a flexible frame. Now if it detects a face, it will put a box around the face. If it's detecting a body, it'll put a box around the whole body. And this also applies to animals, as you can see here. I tried it with these birds, or swans, I don't know, ducks, whatever you'd call them, and you can see how it surrounded them all with flexible boxes, and you can either use the AF joystick to switch between the ones that you want to select, or tap them on the screen. And of course that also applies whether the camera is detecting faces or bodies. Panasonic's really pushed the boat out on its viewfinder resolution here. Forget 2 or 3 million dot viewfinders. This one has 5.76 million dots. That's a higher resolution than my first digital camera. And it's coupled here with 120 frames per second refresh rate and a 0.78 times magnification. So maybe not quite as big an image as the G9, but certainly way more detailed. And you really notice it when resolving very, very fine details. Instead of being slightly fuzzy as they are on low-res viewfinders, everything is resolved very clearly here. And if you go through the menus, those fonts have got incredibly fine details. You really can't see the pixels on this. So well done Panasonic for raising the bar on what we can expect on viewfinder panels. The Lumix S bodies are fitted with a 3.2-inch touchscreen, and you can of course tap to reposition the AF area. Also notice the AF joystick here, which can move the AF area diagonally now. That's nice. But being Panasonic, you can of course use the touchscreen for many other aspects of the user interface. You can touch to go through the menu system. You can navigate playback by touch, swiping through your favourite pictures of Chris and Jordan here, double tapping to check the focus, and pinching to zoom in and out. Look at that, beautifully focused on the eyes there. Panasonic's gone for a Tri-Axial Articulation system, which means the screen can angle up, it can angle down, and it can also angle out sideways. In this respect, it's just like the Fujifilm X-T3, but what this screen won't do is angle all the way around to the side or above the top or down to the bottom to face you. So it's not an ideal camera for vlogging or filming pieces to camera. However, Panasonic say they've done it this way to increase or maximize the robustness of the body. Behind a substantial door on the right hand side, you'll find twin memory card slots. Take that, Canon, Nikon. At the top, we've got an SD memory card, and below that, an XQD slot. Behind two flaps on the left hand side, you'll find a full-size HDMI port. Thanks for that, Panasonic. Very handy if you want to connect an external recorder, and if you choose the S1 model with an optional paid-for firmware update, this port will output 10-bit 4K up to 60p. It'll also record 10-bit internally up to 30p, again without firmware update, S1 only. Above this, a USB-C port which can be used for charging and also for powering the camera while it's operational with USB power delivery. Again, a very nice feature to have when your battery's running low. And above this, microphone and headphone jacks. Panasonic's developed a new battery for the Lumix S series. Look at this bad boy, pretty large, and in fact the rating on this is 3050 milliamp hour. Under SEPA conditions you should be getting about 680 shots out of this, but as always your mileage may vary. Certainly if you're not jimping or looking at every single picture or using Wi-Fi that much, you should easily get over 1,000 shots per charge. I really like that the manufacturers are thinking more carefully about equipping mirrorless cameras with decent battery life. And of course you can also power this camera over USB and use it live with USB power delivery. Set to high-speed mode, the Lumix S bodies will both shoot at up to 9 frames per second in single AF or 6 frames per second with continuous AF. Let's see what that looks like for single AF. You can see there's a little bit of lag there. If I switch this to continuous autofocus, there we are. You can see it's slower, but you are at least getting a little bit of feedback there. Again, this is a pre-production sample, so final models may vary. This speed is the same whether you're shooting with the S1 or the S1R. One final note, Panasonic has resisted equipping the Lumix S bodies with phase detect autofocus, so it is a contrast-based system only, just like the Lumix G bodies. This means that for continuous autofocus it may lack the ultimate confidence of phase detect models, but it does mean that the single AF is very, very fast and accurate, and if you fit it with a nice bright lens, it'll even operate down to -6 EV. The Lumix S bodies feature a high-resolution mode which exploits the sensor shift stabilization system to move that sensor tiny amounts in different directions while it takes a burst of pictures and then clumps them all together into an extra high-resolution image. In the case of the S1, which starts with 24 megapixels, well, it'll end up with 96 megapixels, and if you're lucky enough to have the 47 megapixel S1R, well, you're going to end up with up to 187 megapixels. Count them, 187. That's the highest yet. The Lumix S camera has become the first full-frame mirrorless cameras that can film 4K up to 60p, although with some caveats which I'll mention in a moment. If I go through the video menus and have a look at the recording quality options, you can see you've got all of the 1080 options here, 4K at 24, 25, 30p, and also 50 and 60p. However, on my pre-production S1 model here, when I was filming in 50 or 60p in 4K, it applied an APS-C crop, so it's not full frame anymore. That, of course, might change on the final production, but I don't think it will. However, if you have the S1R, at least on the final production sample that I tested, you can film full frame 4K all the way up to 60p, although with shorter recording times. If you're using the S1, you can film unlimited clips up to 30p and up to half an hour in 50 or 60p, and with an optional firmware update that you can pay for later in 2019, you can unlock 10-bit recording internally up to 30p or externally up to 60p. High-speed 1080 video is also available up to 180 frames per second, although there is a mild crop, and this mode also is interpreted in camera, so it's slowed down when you play back. It unfortunately doesn't record sound, and it was manual focus only when I tested it. The Lumix S bodies that I tested for this video were pre-production models, which means I can't evaluate the image quality. I can't look too closely, so unfortunately this part of the video is going to be very short. Here are a few snaps that I took around Barcelona, great place to visit. If you're into food and drink, architecture and art, really nice city to visit. But of course I will be retesting a final production sample soon at cameralabs.com, and that's a place to head if you want a proper evaluation of image quality. But right now I can only talk about the features and the general handling. And that's about all I can tell you in this video, because as I mentioned a moment ago, it's a pre-production sample, so I'm not allowed to evaluate the image or the video quality. So what do you think of the Lumix S body so far? Have they got you excited? Of course, there's one other fact that you want to know, and that is the price. Okay, so for the S1 body, which I have in front of me here, you're looking at $2,499 US or 2,199 British pounds. And for the S1R, that's the high resolution version, you're looking at $36.99 or 33.99 pounds. Still tempted? Let me know in the comments below, and I will bid you farewell for now from the noisy outdoor streets of Barcelona, one of my favourite places again, although not an ideal place to film a video outside, so I apologise again for the noise. As always, if you want to find out all of my latest information on these cameras, or indeed any other camera or lens, head on over to cameralabs.com. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.